My name is Sylvia. I am 58 years old. I was standing in the most beautiful wedding reception hall I had ever seen, watching my daughter Lauren marry for the second time. I had prayed this marriage would bring her happiness. Then my 6-year-old grandson, Ethan, stopped playing. His face turned pale. He grabbed my hand and whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Grandma, I want to go home now." When I asked why he pointed under the table, what he saw changed everything. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever trusted someone completely only to discover they were hiding something terrible, hit that like button right now. And if you want to hear how a 6-year-old boy saved his mother from a devastating mistake, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. This story will remind you that sometimes the youngest eyes see the clearest truth. I need to take you back to where this all began, so you can understand why that moment at the wedding shattered my world. I became a widow 8 years ago when my husband Frank lost his battle with lung cancer. We had been married for 32 years. He was my best friend, my partner in everything. When he passed, I thought I would never feel whole again. But I had Lauren, my only daughter, and she became my reason to keep going. For 30 years, I worked as a nurse at the county hospital. I saw life and death every single day. I learned to read people, to sense when something was wrong even before they could tell me. That instinct would later prove to be the most important skill I ever developed. Lauren was always my sunshine. From the moment she was born, she filled our home with laughter. She was the kind of child who would bring home stray animals and beg to keep them. She had a heart too big for her own good, and I always worried that someone would take advantage of that softness. After Frank died, I threw myself into being there for Lauren and my grandson Ethan. He was just a baby when his grandfather passed, so he never really knew Frank, but I made sure to tell him stories about his grandfather every chance I got. Ethan and I developed a special bond. He was a quiet, observant child with wise eyes that seemed to see right through people. He would tell me things he never told anyone else, and I treasured that trust between us. My little house in Pennsylvania became a sanctuary for our small family. Every weekend, Lauren would bring Ethan over. We would bake cookies together, watch old movies, and just enjoy being together. Those were the moments that kept me going after losing Frank. Lauren married her first husband, Marcus, when she was 26 years old. They had met in college and dated for 4 years before tying the knot. Marcus was a high school history teacher, a gentle soul who loved books and quiet evenings at home. I adored him from the moment Lauren brought him to meet us. Ethan came along 2 years after the wedding. He was the most beautiful baby with his father's calm demeanor and his mother's bright eyes. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Lauren had the family she always dreamed of. Marcus was a devoted father. I thought they would grow old together, but people change, or maybe they finally show who they really are. As Lauren's career in real estate took off, she started wanting more. Bigger house, nicer car, expensive vacations. Marcus was content with their modest life. He said happiness was not measured in square footage or brand names. They started arguing about money, about priorities, about the life they wanted to build. I watched from the sidelines, hoping they would work it out. But 2 years ago, Lauren came to my house in tears. She said she was filing for divorce. She said she and Marcus had grown into different people. She needed someone who matched her ambition, her drive. I did not agree with her decision, but I respected it. Marcus never said a bad word about Lauren even after the divorce. They agreed on shared custody of Ethan, and to their credit, they put their son first. Ethan spent half the week with his mother and half with his father. It was not ideal, but they made it work. I stayed close with Marcus even after the divorce. He was still Ethan's father, still family in my eyes. Lauren never complained about that. She said she wanted Ethan to have a good relationship with both parents. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Lauren called me with news. She had met someone. His name was Derek, and she said he was everything she had been looking for. They met at a networking event downtown. Derek was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm. He wore tailored suits and drove a luxury car. He had the kind of smile that could sell you anything. Lauren was smitten from the first conversation. I remember the first time she brought Derek to my house for dinner. He arrived with an expensive bottle of wine and a bouquet of roses for me. He complimented my cooking before he even tasted it. He asked about my nursing career and listened like every word was fascinating. On paper, he was perfect, handsome, successful, charming, but something felt off to me. I could not put my finger on it at first. His smile was too polished, too practiced. His eyes did not match the warmth in his voice. When Lauren left the room, his expression would shift just slightly, like an actor between scenes. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was just a protective mother who did not want to see her daughter hurt again. I kept my concerns to myself because Lauren was happier than she had been in years. Who was I to ruin that Derek proposed after only 8 months of dating? Lauren called me crying tears of joy. She said yes without hesitation. She said this time was different. She knew in her heart that Derek was the one. The night before the wedding, I went to Lauren's apartment to help her prepare. Her wedding dress hung in the bedroom, a beautiful ivory gown that cost more than my first car. Lauren looked radiant as she tried it on one last time. She hugged me tight and said, "I know Derek is the right choice, Mum. This time will be different. I promise." I smiled and nodded. I fastened our family heirloom, a pearl necklace that had belonged to my mother, around her neck. I wanted to believe her. I wanted so desperately to believe that my daughter had finally found her happiness. But deep down, a small voice whispered that something was not right. I pushed that voice away and focused on the joy of the moment. I told myself that my instincts were wrong this time. I had no idea how soon I would regret ignoring that warning. The warning signs started appearing weeks before the wedding, but I tried to explain them away. Looking back, I should have trusted my gut from the very beginning. My niece Natalie became Lauren's maid of honor. She was Grace's daughter, my older sister's child. Natalie was 30 years old and worked as a legal assistant at Derek's law firm. In fact, she was the one who had introduced Lauren to Derek in the first place. At family gatherings, Natalie would talk about Derek constantly. She praised his intelligence, his generosity, his success. At first, I thought she was just being supportive of her cousin's relationship, but there was something in her voice when she said his name, a certain warmth that seemed excessive for talking about your cousin's fiancé. I noticed that Natalie and Derek spent a lot of time together planning the wedding. Lauren thought nothing of it. She was busy with work and trusted Natalie to handle the details. But I saw how Natalie's face lit up whenever Derek walked into a room. I saw how she found excuses to touch his arm when they talked. Grace, my sister, was proud of how involved Natalie was in the wedding planning. She said Natalie was lucky to have such a supportive boss. I nodded and said nothing about my growing concerns. The rehearsal dinner was held at an upscale restaurant the night before the wedding. Over 60 people gathered to celebrate Lauren and Derek. I arrived early, wanting some quiet time before the chaos began. I found a seat in the corner and watched people arrive. That is when I saw Derek and Natalie standing together near the bar. They were deep in conversation, their heads close together. Derek's hand rested on the small of Natalie's back, a gesture that seemed far too intimate for a man about to marry someone else. When Lauren walked through the door, they separated instantly, like magnets repelling each other, like two people who had something to hide. I told myself I was imagining things. Derek was just being friendly with his future wife's cousin. There was nothing wrong with that, but my heart was beating faster and my nurse's instinct was screaming that I was looking at a symptom of something much worse. During dinner, I sat across from Ethan. The poor boy looked overwhelmed by all the adults and noise around him. He picked at his food and stayed quiet, which was unusual for him. Normally, he would be chatting my ear off about school or his latest favourite cartoon. I watched Derek throughout the meal. He sat next to Lauren, playing the role of devoted fiancé perfectly, but every few minutes his eyes would drift toward Natalie at the other end of the table. Quick glances that no one else seemed to notice, no one except Ethan. My grandson tugged on my sleeve and leaned close to my ear. "Grandma, why does Uncle Derek keep looking at Cousin Natalie?" I froze. A 6-year-old had seen what I was trying to convince myself did not exist. I patted his hand and told him that Uncle Derek was probably just making sure everyone was having a good time. Ethan nodded, but he did not look convinced. Children have a way of seeing through adult lies. After the dinner ended, I took Ethan outside for some fresh air. The restaurant had a small garden with fairy lights strung through the trees. We sat on a bench and looked up at the stars. Grandma Ethan said quietly, "I do not like Uncle Derek." I asked him why. "He smiles with his mouth but not with his eyes. And when Mommy is not looking, he acts different. He is always on his phone texting, and his face changes." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean his face changes?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Like when I pretend to be happy about getting socks for Christmas. He is pretending too." I hugged my grandson close. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as a child's imagination, but Ethan was not prone to making things up. He was one of the most honest people I knew, despite being only 6 years old. Then Ethan told me something that made my blood run cold. I saw Uncle Derek hug Cousin Natalie in the kitchen last week. When no one was looking, he hugged her for a really long time, and she was smiling. My heart stopped. "When did you see this?" "When Mummy was in the bathroom. I went to get some water and they were in the kitchen. They did not see me. I hid behind the door. I asked Ethan if he had told his mother. He shook his head. I do not want to make Mummy sad. She loves Uncle Derek so much." I held my grandson tighter, feeling the weight of what he had shared. This was no longer just my paranoid imagination. A child had witnessed something. Children do not have agendas. They just report what they see. But what was I supposed to do? The wedding was tomorrow. If I was wrong, I would destroy my relationship with Lauren. If I was right and said nothing, my daughter would marry a man who was betraying her before they even exchanged vows. That night, I lay awake in my hotel room until the sun came up. I watched shadows move across the ceiling and prayed for guidance. I asked Frank what he would do, but the silence gave me no answers. Tomorrow, my daughter was getting married, and I had never felt more afraid in my entire life. The wedding day arrived with clear blue skies and perfect weather. It should have been a dream come true. Instead, I felt like I was walking through a nightmare in slow motion. I went to Lauren's bridal suite early in the morning to help her get ready. She was surrounded by her bridesmaids, all of them giggling and sipping champagne. Natalie was there too, adjusting the train of Lauren's dress with careful hands. I watched Natalie's face as she worked. She looked nervous, distracted. She kept checking her phone when she thought no one was paying attention. Something was definitely wrong. Lauren looked absolutely beautiful. Her hair was swept up in an elegant style, and her makeup highlighted her natural features. When she saw me, she rushed over and wrapped me in a hug. "Mum, can you believe it? In a few hours, I will be Mrs. Derek Harrison." I smiled and told her she was the most beautiful bride I had ever seen. It was not a lie. She was stunning. But my heart was heavy with everything I knew and everything I suspected. I fastened the pearl necklace around her neck, just as I had done at the rehearsal. She touched the pearls and smiled. "I wish Dad could be here," she whispered. "He is here," I told her. "He is watching over you. He always will be." We held each other for a long moment. I wanted to say something about Derek, about Natalie, about everything Ethan had told me, but the words stuck in my throat. How could I shatter her happiness on her wedding day? Based on a child's observations and my own suspicions, I made the choice to stay silent. It is a choice I would question for a long time afterward. The ceremony was held at a beautiful old church, the same church where my parents had been married 60 years ago. Over 100 guests filled the wooden pews, dressed in their finest attire. Flowers decorated every surface, filling the air with the scent of roses and lilies. I sat in the front row with Ethan beside me. He was wearing a little suit that made him look like a tiny gentleman, but his face was serious, his eyes watchful. He had not said anything more about Derek since our conversation the night before, but I could tell he was still thinking about it. Pastor Williams stood at the altar waiting for the ceremony to begin. The organ music swelled as the bridesmaids walked down the aisle one by one. Natalie came last, carrying her bouquet with trembling hands. Then Lauren appeared at the back of the church on the arm of her uncle, my brother, who had agreed to give her away in Frank's absence. She was radiant. Every head turned to watch her glide down the aisle toward Derek. Derek stood at the altar looking every bit the happy groom. His smile was wide, his posture perfect. But I noticed his eyes flick toward Natalie for just a second as Lauren approached. A quick glance that anyone else would have missed, but I did not miss it. And neither did Ethan. Grandma Ethan whispered, tugging on my sleeve. "Did you see?" He looked at cousin Natalie again. I squeezed his hand and told him to be quiet, but my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The ceremony proceeded without incident. Pastor Williams spoke about love and commitment and the sacred bond of marriage. I listened to every word, searching Derek's face for any sign of insincerity. When it came time for the vows, Derek spoke his promises with conviction. He looked into Lauren's eyes and pledged to love her, honor her, cherish her until death parted them. His voice did not waver. His expression was tender. For a moment, I doubted everything. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Derek really did love my daughter. Maybe Ethan had misunderstood what he saw. Maybe I was just a paranoid old woman who could not let her daughter be happy. They exchanged rings. The pastor pronounced them husband and wife. Derek kissed Lauren as the congregation erupted in applause. I clapped along with everyone else, but my hands felt numb. Something still felt wrong. I just could not prove it. The reception was held at a 5-star hotel ballroom downtown. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. White linen covered every table. A live band played soft jazz as guests found their seats. I sat at the family table with Grace, Ethan, and several other relatives. Derek and Lauren were at the head table with the wedding party, including Natalie. From my seat, I had a clear view of everyone. The evening progressed through the usual wedding rituals. The first dance, the cake cutting, the bouquet toss. Lauren caught me watching her several times and smiled, obviously happy that her mother was there to share in her joy. Ethan asked if he could go play with some of the other children who were running around the edges of the ballroom. I told him yes, but to stay where I could see him. He ran off to join a group of kids who were playing near the dance floor. About 30 minutes later, I saw Ethan freeze in the middle of the ballroom. He was staring at something near the head table. His face went white as a sheet. He turned and ran straight toward me. When he reached our table, he grabbed my hand with both of his. His fingers were ice cold. "Grandma," he said, his voice shaking, "I want to go home. Right now." I asked him what was wrong. Why did he want to leave? His eyes were wide and scared. He pointed toward the head table where Derek and Natalie were sitting. "Look under the table," he whispered. I saw it when I was playing. "Did you not see what they were doing?" My heart stopped. "What did you see?" Ethan's lip trembled. Their hands, under the tablecloth. They were holding hands, Grandma, and he was rubbing her leg. I looked toward the head table. Derek and Natalie were sitting side by side, their upper bodies visible to everyone. They looked perfectly innocent, chatting and laughing with the other guests. But beneath the long white tablecloth, no one could see what their hands were doing. I told Ethan to stay with his Aunt Grace. I needed to see for myself. I stood up and walked toward the head table, trying to keep my expression neutral. My legs felt like they were made of lead. Every step brought me closer to the truth I was afraid to discover. When I reached the table, I pretended to drop my napkin. As I bent down to pick it up, I angled my body so I could see beneath the tablecloth. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. Derek's hand was on Natalie's thigh. Their fingers were intertwined beneath the table, hidden from everyone's view. They were sitting so close that their shoulders almost touched. I stood up slowly, my face drained of all colour. Derek looked at me and smiled, his charming, practiced smile. He had no idea I had seen anything. "Sylvia," he said warmly, "are you enjoying the reception?" I could not speak. I nodded and turned away, walking back to my table on legs that threatened to give out beneath me. Ethan was waiting for me, his eyes full of questions. I sat down and pulled him close. "Grandma, did you see?" I nodded. "I saw. What are we going to do?" I looked at my daughter across the room. She was laughing at something one of her bridesmaids said, completely unaware that her new husband was holding hands with another woman at their wedding reception. I did not know what to do, but I knew I had to do something. I excused myself from the table and walked outside to the hotel terrace. I needed air. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do with the terrible knowledge I now possessed. The night was cool and quiet, a stark contrast to the celebration happening inside. I gripped the terrace railing and stared out at the city lights, trying to calm my racing thoughts. No, there was no innocent explanation for a groom holding hands with another woman under the table at his own wedding reception, a woman who happened to be his bride's cousin. I thought about all the choices laid out before me. I could say nothing and let Lauren discover the truth on her own eventually, but that could take months or years, and how much damage would be done by then. I could tell Lauren privately after the wedding and let her decide what to do. But the marriage would already be official. The betrayal would already be sealed. I could confront Derek directly and demand answers, but he would probably lie and then turn Lauren against me. None of the options were good, but silence was the worst option of all. I remembered what Frank used to say when I faced difficult decisions at the hospital. The truth might hurt, but living in a lie hurts more. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Frank was right. He was always right. I went back inside with a plan forming in my mind. I needed more evidence, something concrete that Lauren could not dismiss as her mother's paranoia or a child's imagination. I scanned the ballroom and spotted Natalie's purse sitting on a chair near the head table. She had left it unattended while she was on the dance floor with one of the groomsmen. I walked casually toward the chair, picking up a glass of water from a passing waiter to look like I had a purpose. When I reached the chair, I pretended to look for something on the floor. Natalie's phone was sticking out of her purse. As if on cue, the screen lit up with a notification. My breath caught in my throat when I read the preview. It was a text from Derek. The message said, "Tonight, room 412. Do not let anyone know." I pulled out my own phone and quickly took a photo of the screen. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. I had my evidence. I returned to my table and sat down, trying to appear calm. Inside, I was a storm of emotions: anger, sadness, disgust, and underneath it all, a terrible grief for my daughter, who did not yet know her heart was about to be broken. I waited for the right moment to approach Lauren. It came when she excused herself to use the restroom. I followed her out of the ballroom and caught her in the hallway. "Lauren," I said, "I need to talk to you, alone. It is important." She looked at me with concern. "Mum, what is wrong? You look pale." I guided her into a small private room nearby. A conference room that the hotel had set up for bridal preparations earlier in the day. I closed the door behind us. "Mum, you are scaring me. What is going on?" I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I showed her the photo of the text message on Natalie's phone. "I need you to look at this. I am sorry. I am so sorry to do this today of all days. But you need to know. Lauren's face went from confusion to disbelief to horror as she read the message. She stared at the screen for a long time, not saying anything. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "This cannot be real. Natalie is my cousin. Derek loves me. I told her everything. What Ethan had seen at the rehearsal dinner, the hug in the kitchen, what I witnessed under the table tonight, the looks, the touches, the hidden intimacy between her husband and her cousin." Lauren listened without interrupting. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not make a sound. When I finished, she stood completely still for what felt like an eternity. Then something changed in her expression. The devastation hardened into something else. Determination. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her voice was steady when she spoke. "I need to see it for myself. Tonight. Room 412. You said the text said tonight. Yes. I am so sorry, sweetheart. Do not be sorry. You did the right thing. Now I am going to do the right thing too." She looked at me with eyes that held both pain and resolve. "I am not going to be a victim, Mum. Not again. If Derek thinks he can make a fool of me on my wedding day, he is about to learn who he married." I had never been more proud of my daughter than I was in that moment. She was not crumbling under the weight of betrayal. She was rising to meet it head on. We made a plan. Lauren would act normal for the rest of the reception. She would pretend nothing was wrong. Then, later tonight, she would go to room 412 and see the truth with her own eyes. I offered to go with her, but she shook her head. "No, Mum. I need to do this myself. But I need you to take care of Ethan. Keep him at your hotel room tonight. He should not be anywhere near this. I promised I would. I promised I would be there for her, no matter what happened." We hugged for a long time in that empty conference room, two women preparing for battle, one mother and her daughter facing the worst betrayal imaginable. When we walked back into the reception, Lauren was smiling. She went straight to Derek and kissed him on the cheek. She laughed and danced and played the role of happy bride to perfection. No one suspected a thing, except me. I watched my daughter with awe and heartbreak, knowing that behind her smile was a heart that was already breaking, but she was not going to let anyone see her fall, not until she was ready to make them fall first. The reception ended around 10 o'clock. Guests said their goodbyes, congratulating the happy couple and wishing them a wonderful life together if they only knew what was about to unfold. Derek announced that he and Lauren would be heading up to the honeymoon suite. He had his arm around her waist, playing the devoted husband flawlessly. Lauren smiled and said she was exhausted from the long day and wanted to rest before their flight to the Caribbean in the morning. They went up in the elevator together. I watched the doors close, wondering how Lauren was managing to stand so close to the man who had betrayed her. I took Ethan back to my hotel room on a different floor. He was tired, but still worried. "Grandma, is Mummy going to be okay? She is going to be fine, sweetheart. Your mummy is very strong. Now, let us get you ready for bed." I helped him change into his pajamas and tucked him into the big hotel bed. He fell asleep within minutes, exhausted from the long day. I sat in the chair by the window and waited. I could not sleep. I could barely breathe. I just sat there in the dark, waiting for news from Lauren. Around 11:30, my phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Going to 412 now. Wish me luck." I texted back, "I love you. I am here no matter what." The next 30 minutes were the longest of my life. I paced the room, checked my phone every few seconds, and prayed that somehow I was wrong about all of this. Maybe Derek would not show up. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. At midnight, my phone rang. It was Lauren. I answered immediately. "Lauren, what happened?" Her voice was calm, eerily calm. "I found them. Together. In bed. In room 412. I closed my eyes. "Oh, sweetheart, I am so sorry. Do not be sorry. I got exactly what I needed. Photos, evidence. Derek tried to explain, but there is nothing to explain when you catch your husband in bed with your cousin on your wedding night. What did you do? I told him our marriage is over. I told him to pack his things and be out of the hotel by morning. I told Natalie she is dead to me. Lauren, honey, are you okay? There was a long pause before she answered. No, I am not okay, but I will be. Can I come to your room? Of course. Come right now. 15 minutes later, there was a soft knock on my door. I opened it to find Lauren standing there, still in her wedding dress. Her makeup was smeared from crying. Her eyes were red and swollen, but she was not broken. She was still standing. I pulled her into my arms and held her while she finally let herself cry. Not the quiet tears from earlier. These were deep, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. All the pain and betrayal and humiliation came pouring out. Ethan woke up from the noise. He climbed out of bed and came to us, wrapping his small arms around his mother's legs. Do not cry, Mummy. It will be okay. Grandma and I will take care of you. Lauren knelt down and hugged her son. She held him like he was the most precious thing in the world, because he was. You are my brave boy, she whispered. You saw the truth when no one else did. You saved me. Ethan looked confused but proud. Did I do a good thing, Mommy? You did the best thing. You were honest, and that takes more courage than you know. We stayed up most of the night, the three of us curled up on the hotel bed. Lauren talked about everything she was feeling, the rage, the embarrassment, the sense of betrayal, not just from Derek, but from Natalie, her own blood. How could she do this to me? Lauren kept asking. We grew up together. She was supposed to be my family. I did not have an answer. Some betrayals are too deep for explanations. As the sun began to rise, Lauren made a decision. I am going to file for an annulment first thing Monday. I am going to cut Natalie out of my life completely. And I am never going to let anyone make me feel like a fool again. Her voice was steady, her eyes were clear. She was already healing herself through sheer force of will. I was proud of her, so incredibly proud. The days after the wedding were chaotic. News spread quickly through our family about what had happened. Some people were supportive. Others seemed almost gleeful about the drama. A few blamed Lauren for choosing Derek too quickly after her divorce. I did not have patience for the gossip. I focused on being there for Lauren and Ethan, helping them through the aftermath of this disaster. Lauren moved back into my house temporarily while she sorted out her life. The honeymoon was cancelled. The wedding gifts were returned. The dream of a new beginning was replaced by the reality of another ending. I called Grace, my sister, to tell her what Natalie had done. The conversation was painful. Grace refused to believe it at first. She said there must be some mistake. Her daughter would never do something like that. I told her about the text message, about what Lauren witnessed in room 412, about everything Ethan had seen leading up to the wedding. Grace went silent. Then she started crying. I am so sorry, she said. I do not know where I went wrong with her. Please tell Lauren I am sorry. Grace did not try to defend Natalie after that. She did not try to minimize what had happened. She simply apologized and asked if there was anything she could do. Natalie never reached out to apologize directly. She sent a long letter to Lauren explaining her side of the story, making excuses about how she had fallen in love with Derek and could not help her feelings. Lauren burned the letter without reading past the first paragraph. Derek tried multiple times to contact Lauren. He called, he texted, he showed up at my house once begging to talk to her. Lauren refused to see him. I was the one who answered the door that day. She does not want to talk to you, I told him. Not now, not ever. He had the audacity to look wounded. I love her, Sylvia. This was a mistake. Natalie meant nothing. I felt my blood boil. A mistake. You were sleeping with her cousin on your wedding day, in the same hotel where you married my daughter. That is not a mistake. That is a choice. And now you get to live with the consequences. He left after that. I heard later that he transferred to a law firm in another city. Good riddance. The annulment was finalized within a few weeks. Because the marriage had been based on fraud and had barely been consummated, the court granted it quickly. Lauren was legally single again, as if the marriage had never happened. Marcus called when he heard the news. I was worried he might be smug about it, given how Lauren had left him for supposedly better things. But he was nothing but kind. I just wanted to make sure Ethan is okay, he said. And Lauren too. I know this must be hard for all of you. Lauren talked to him for over an hour. She thanked him for being a good father, for not rubbing salt in her wounds, for caring about their son above all else. Something shifted between them after that conversation. Not romantic feelings, but a deeper respect and friendship. Ethan handled everything better than I expected. He was sad that Uncle Derek was gone, but mostly he seemed relieved. I think he sensed the deception all along and was glad it was finally over. One evening, about 3 weeks after the wedding, Ethan and I were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. He was unusually quiet. "Grandma," he finally said, "did I do the right thing, telling you what I saw?" I pulled him onto my lap, even though he was getting too big for that. "You did exactly the right thing. You were brave and honest, and because of that, your mummy did not have to spend years with someone who did not truly love her. You protected her." He nodded slowly. I was scared. I thought Mummy would be mad at me. "She could never be mad at you for telling the truth. Neither could I. The truth is always better than a lie, even when it hurts." He leaned his head against my shoulder. "I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you will ever know." 6 months passed after the disaster of Lauren's second wedding. The seasons changed from winter to spring to summer. Life moved forward as it always does, even after the deepest wounds. Lauren threw herself into healing. She started seeing a therapist to work through the double betrayal from Derek and Natalie. She said the sessions were helping her understand why she had been attracted to someone like Derek in the first place, and how to make better choices in the future. She also reconnected with friends she had neglected while chasing her ambitious dreams, women who had known her since childhood. They rallied around her, taking her out for dinners and movie nights and long walks in the park. Slowly, the light came back into her eyes. One day, she came home from work and announced she had joined a book club. "Can you believe it?" she laughed. "Me in a book club." Marcus would be shocked. I told her that trying new things was healthy. She was discovering who she was outside of romantic relationships, and that was important. Lauren and Marcus developed a genuine friendship in the months following the annulment. They coordinated Ethan's schedule without conflict. They attended his school events together without awkwardness. They even had dinner as a family. Occasionally, the three of them, just to give Ethan a sense of stability. Lauren was not ready to date anyone new, and she was honest about that. She told me she needed time to learn how to be alone first. She needed to figure out what she really wanted from life before inviting someone else into it. I admired her self-awareness. It was something she had lacked in her youth, always jumping from one relationship to the next. Now she was taking her time, learning her lessons, growing stronger. Ethan turned 7 in the spring. We threw him a birthday party at my house with his school friends and both sets of family. Marcus was there and Lauren was there, and they managed to be cordial and warm with each other. It was not the perfect family unit, but it was a healthy one. After the party, when all the guests had left and the cake had been eaten, Ethan asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Grandma, should I get married when I grow up?" I sat down next to him on the porch swing. "That is a big question for a 7-year-old. He shrugged. "I just wonder. Mommy got married twice, and both times it did not work. Maybe marriage is bad." I chose my words carefully. Marriage is not bad, sweetheart, but it requires choosing the right person, someone who is honest with you, someone who makes you want to be the best version of yourself. Your mummy just had not found that person yet, but that does not mean love is not worth trying for. He thought about this for a moment. "How do you know if someone is the right person?" I smiled. You look at how they treat you when no one else is watching. You see if their actions match their words. And most importantly, you trust your gut feeling. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Like when I saw Uncle Derek holding hands with cousin Natalie. Exactly like that. You trusted your instinct and you were right. That is a gift, Ethan. Never lose it. He nodded solemnly, then broke into a grin. I want to marry someone who likes video games and pizza. I laughed and ruffled his hair. Those are excellent criteria. A few months later, I ran into Natalie at the grocery store. It was the first time I had seen her since before the wedding. She looked different, thinner, tired. The confidence that had once radiated from her was gone. She saw me and froze like a deer in headlights. For a moment, I thought she might run away. Instead, she walked toward me with her head bowed. "Aunt Sylvia," she said quietly, "I know you probably do not want to talk to me." I studied her face. She looked genuinely remorseful. The cockiness that had allowed her to betray her own cousin had been replaced by something that looked like shame. I could have walked away. I could have unleashed all the anger I had been holding for months, but something stopped me. Frank's voice in my head, perhaps. Or just the wisdom that comes with being 58 years old and having seen too much of life's cruelty. "What you did was unforgivable," I told her evenly. "You betrayed your cousin on her wedding day. You broke her heart in the worst way possible." Natalie nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I continued, "I cannot speak for Lauren. She may never forgive you, and that is her right. But I am choosing to let go of my anger, not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying hatred is exhausting. I am too old for that." Natalie wiped her eyes. "I am so sorry. I know that does not fix anything, but I am sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I turned and walked away. I did not look back. When I got home, I felt lighter than I had in months. Forgiving Natalie was not about absolving her of her sins. It was about freeing myself from the poison of resentment. I had learned that lesson long ago when Frank was dying and I had to make peace with losing him. Life is too short to carry grudges. You either let them go or they drag you down with them. 1 year after the ill-fated wedding, I was sitting in my living room when Lauren came home from work with news. "Mum," she said, her eyes bright, "I got promoted. Senior Director of Sales. I did it." I jumped up and hugged her. "That is wonderful. I am so proud of you." She laughed. "I should have focused on my career instead of chasing men a long time ago. This is so much more satisfying." She was glowing, not with romantic love, but with self-love, with accomplishment, with pride in who she had become. Ethan ran in from the backyard when he heard the commotion. "What happened, Mummy? Got her a big promotion at work," I told him. His face lit up. "Does that mean we can get a puppy now?" Lauren laughed and scooped him up. "We will see about that." Later that evening, after Ethan was in bed, Lauren and I sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the yard. "Mum, thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For telling me the truth that night. I know it was the hardest thing you ever had to do, but you saved me from wasting my life with someone who did not deserve me." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "I just did what any mother would do. I loved you enough to risk losing you." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I love you, Mum. I love you too, sweetheart." We sat there, in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out one by one. I thought about Frank and how much he would have loved seeing Lauren find her strength. I thought about Ethan and the brave little boy who had spoken up when adults were too blind to see. I thought about all the pain we had endured and all the healing that had followed. Life was not perfect. It never would be. But it was good, and sometimes good is enough. If you are watching this video, maybe you have been through something similar. Maybe someone you trusted broke your heart. Maybe you are wondering if you should speak up about something you have seen. Here is what I learned from all of this. The truth matters, even when it hurts, even when it destroys everything you thought you knew, because the alternative, living in a lie, is so much worse. And sometimes the most unlikely person will be the one to show you the truth. For us, it was a 6-year-old boy who saw what the adults refused to see. Who had the courage to tug on my sleeve and say, "Grandma, look under the table. Listen to those voices. Trust those instincts, because they might just save you from the biggest mistake of your life." Now I have a question for you. Have you ever had a moment when a child showed you something that adults missed? Or have you ever had to deliver painful news to someone you loved to protect them from a bigger hurt? Share your story in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this video. And if you want to hear more stories about family betrayal and finding your strength, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. Whatever you are going through right now, I hope you find the courage to seek the truth and the strength to handle whatever you discover. Remember, you are stronger than you think you are. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people you love. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell someone the truth, even when it breaks your heart to do it. Goodbye for now, and may your journey bring you peace.